Good day, everyone. Today, we will be discussing about Lesson 10, the issues and challenges of political globalization. Political interdependence between nations have already been established, and the widespread globalization has sprung several ideologies, circumstances, and alliances political-wise. World coalition government is a parliamentary government or a body of advisors that is formed when different political parties choose to cooperate in the administration and regulation of a country or community. Usually, it is a temporary alliance being formed when no single political party gains a clear majority and competing parties instead negotiate to work together, which is likely to occur during a period of crisis such as during a war or a political breakdown. To put it simply, it is a political alliance between parties with one common agenda of some sort. They agree to have the same principles and policies in order to function, and also, it should be noted that it is only a temporary alliance. However, these circumstances have become significant even at present. The OPCG, or the Organization for Promoting Global Civilization, is a New York-based non-profit organization promoting the spirit of global civilization by trying to resolve conflicts between cultures and religions through international meetings and debates. As the conferences being hosted by the OPCG is by nature in a form of political debates, it would often spring out different ideologies and theories. For example, during its second conference in 2005, participants from around the world argued that the United Nations is effectively constrained because it lacks political and military authority and it cannot even generate its own revenues. In order to address this concern, the OPCG has released an open letter proposal in which the idea is to create a federal system with an assembly of individual states and a central government, and that the United Nations would continue to exist as the World Coalition Parliament, exercising legislative power, while the prospective World Coalition Government would be the highest executive body. It is also stated in the letter that there are proposed roles and privileges given to the World Coalition Government, such as it would be vested with a full spectrum of authority and power that duly belongs to a supranational government. It will be endowed with a centralized power to exercise political authority over all state governments, and it will also guarantee political independence to all state governments in the world in the same way as the European Union, and it will also provide a platform to promote cooperative political interaction between state governments that is United Nations. Relatively, according to Dr. Shamsul Alam, while civil society is becoming increasingly interconnected, states remain within locked their borders, and the role of the UN should be reformulated to connect the state with civil society. And in conclusion with this issue, it is sad that the idea of the World Coalition Government has often been portrayed as sinister and authoritarian, but with a group of scientists and scholars, they were trying to revive that the concept is a dramatic alternative to the movement to reform the United Nations.
The term G0 world was first coined by political scientists Ian Bremmer and David F. Gordon. It refers to an emerging vacuum of power in international politics created by the decline of Western influence. It aims to explain a world in which there is no single country or group of countries that has ability and will, economically and politically, to drive a truly global agenda. According to Ian Bremmer, G0 describes the current situation in which no country or group of countries can take the lead in solving the world's most pressing problems like climate change, food and water scarcity, nuclear proliferation, and international security. The Group of Seven, or G7, is an intergovernmental organization made up of the world's largest developed economies, like France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. Government leaders of these countries meet periodically to address international economic and monetary issues, with each member taking over the presidency on a rotating basis. The Group of Seven or G7 is not an official, formal entity and therefore no legislative or authoritative power to enforce the recommended policies and plans it compiles. The Group of Eight or G8 refers to the highly industrialized nations such as France, Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, Japan, the United States, Canada, Russia, that holds an annual meeting to foster consensus on global issues like economic growth and crisis, global security, energy, and terrorism. The forum enables presidents and prime ministers as well as finance and their foreign ministers to candidly discuss pressing international issues. Its small and static membership, however, excludes emerging powers from important talks concerning the global economy and international security, and as well as informal grouping, states have little leverage over the members with which to secure compliance on agreements beyond imposing reputational cost. The Group of Eight or G8 is now referred to as G7 because Russia, one of the original eight, was suspended from the group in 2014 after annexing Crimea, an autonomous republic of Ukraine. The Group of 20 or G20 is a collection of 20 of the world's largest economies formed in 1999. It was conceived as a bloc that would bring together the most important industrialized and developing economies to discuss international economic financial stability. G20 is the premier international forum for global economic cooperation. Members are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Republic of Korea, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, and the European Union. G20 members account for 85% of the world economy, 75% of global trade, and two-thirds of the world's population, including more than half of the world's poor. According to Ian Bremmer, the G7 and the G20 no longer reflect the world we live in. After the financial crisis of 2008, it was clear the G7 was too narrow to solve the problem. The result was an empowered G20 which came together to provide global leadership. However, this coordination was proved to be fleeting. The G20's component nations only worked together as long as there was looming crisis that affected them to a similar degree and a similar duration. When the dust settled, we saw the fundamental shift occurring today. The West is riddled with debt and less capable of providing global leadership, while emerging markets like China have proven resilient and increasingly important on the global scale. Yet, those markets remain unwilling to set an international agenda as they focus first and foremost on the domestic growing pains that come with development.
One of the biggest issues in political globalization is if America's days as a superpower is over or not. The key points why US is considered as a superpower country is because it has superior military might and economic, diplomatic, and cultural influence. The erosion of America's global power may be accelerated by the US current foreign policy. China is considered an emerging superpower despite still calling itself a developing country. But America's days as a superpower is certainly not over, whether it's in decline or not. Even if the US is destined to fade into oblivion, it can't be ignored for its indispensability today. America is and will remain the world's only superpower for some time still. Here are two irreconcilable facts that shape the United States' role in foreign policy. Number 1. US is the world's most powerful and indispensable nation, and it will remain so for the foreseeable future, whether or not it is in decline. Last would be that the United States is unwilling to provide global leadership as it used to because of domestic economic concerns and war fatigue stemming from two long campaigns in the Middle East. Creative destruction, sometimes known as Schumpeter's scale, is a concept in economics which, since the 1950s, has become most readily identified with the Austrian-born economist Joseph Schumpeter, who derived it from the work of Karl Marx and popularized it as a theory of economic innovation in the business cycle. According to Schumpeter, the gale of creative destruction describes the process of industrial mutation that continuously revolutionizes the economic structure from within, incessantly destroying the old one and creating a new one. In Martian economic theory, the concept refers more broadly to the linked processes of the accumulation and annihilation of wealth under capitalism. Will America survive in the G0 world? The answer is yes. In fact, the uncertain economic climate makes debt all more manageable. The US has growth and resilience on its side, which draws in countries seeking shelter from volatility. We have previously discussed about the definition of creative destruction. For the first time in 7 decades, we are witnessing political creative destruction once more. The underlying balance of power has been shifting. Whether it's between the United States, considered as the superpower country, and China, which is a developing country recently. That is all for the lesson in issues and challenges in political globalization. Thank you and God bless.